figured it out. I haven't got the notification yet. Oh, there it is. Beautiful. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Hi guys, we're going to be drawing otters today, and so I've done this little kind of guy for everybody. I still see that we have 5 people. Just wait on a few more. Hi Terry, hi Tanya. But yeah, so this is the guy we'll be doing. And like before, I'm going to get you to kind of just go through the shapes the same way we did with the other guys, and we'll run into some pretty good versions of him. All right, so let's see. Is everybody ready to go? They got their pencils and their erasers and their sketchbooks. All right, so to start with this guy, as we do every time, we start with a shape that everybody recognizes, right? So when you're looking at him, you can see that this part's kind of a really big oval, and that's what we're going to start with because it's your biggest shape, right? And so let's start with that. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your smaller shapes as you go along. So anytime you're drawing anything or anytime you're looking for a way to make it easier for yourself to draw, start big and then go small. So let's start that. I keep forgetting there's a camera here, so I apologize if I don't look at it very often, you guys. But let's go with that. So it's a bit of a tilt for that circle. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And you see I'm drawing very lightly. You don't want to draw too hard or else you're going to see whatever you want to erase, right? So if you can see that, it's just a normal circle. All right, so the next thing you're going to see with your circle is you're going to see this oval over here, and it's just a tiny little gap away from that and just a little bit up. So if I were looking at it here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start about where that gap is, and then I'm going to kind of just draw that in. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you guys. It's just there to help you figure out what you're doing. So that's literally all we're going to be doing. Moving on is just figuring those shapes out. And if you've watched this before, you know kind of the gist of what we're working with. So if you can imagine, we're going to start with the head here. He's got a little bit of kind of a look like he's looking up. So I'm just going to tilt that up a little bit. And again, it's just another circle. And you can see that it overlaps with the other one, which is completely fine. That's exactly how we want it to work because that's all going to get erased later. And if you guys have any questions or you have any, comments, definitely let me know. There is a 15-second delay, so I promise I'll answer you if I see it. But yeah, so we're starting there. The next thing you're going to want to do is, again, more ovals. This oval here that we're going to do is going to just point out a little bit. And that way you can kind of see where it's starting to come into shape. A lot of otters tend to look kind of weasel-like, and that means they're going to have kind of a big back half because they use their legs to kind of push forward, and their arms are going to be more dainty and a little thinner. So that's why we're doing these small little ovals to kind of work with how this character is going to go. So if you can see that, that's all we're doing so far. And I'll just wait a couple seconds in case there's anybody that just joined. Woof, we're up to 12. Is there anybody that's just joined that needs any help, or are you okay? So I'm just going to darken these a little bit because I know that it doesn't show up as well. But I'm going to just darken the parts that I know I'm not going to erase. And you guys can actually do the same thing. If you know that those lines that you're doing are not going to be erased, let's just darken those a little bit. Not a lot, just enough to see the shape coming through. And then I'm going to do, again, more circles because we love our circles here. So they're kind of wonky circles and they don't really look like much yet. Thanks, Donna. Yeah, so that's how that's going to work. And then we're going to just do a little bit like a pie wedge right here for his foot. And so you're kind of seeing what it's turning into as we're getting through this, right? All those shapes build up into something. And just so you know, when you get more into drawing, if you're interested in it, you won't have to do these shapes all the time or as many. You'll get that sort of muscle memory going on with it. But yeah, it's just lots of this until we get to our final kind of destination. I'm going to do a C shape up here to the edge of his head because that's going to be where his ears are. If you ever notice, otters always have that kind of flattened ears to their face because they are aquatic and they don't need any, any more than that, really. Like if you saw a fennec fox and it was an aquatic creature, those ears would probably not be very good. So now that we've got that, I'm going to look at this ear and I'm going to look at the tip of this nose and I'm going to draw a line all the way over to the ear, just kind of like that. So if you see it, it's just above the bottom, but not right there. And what that's going to do is going to give you a line of sight for the eyes. And now otter's eyes are generally on the side more so, and then close to the top of his body. So if you can kind of see how it's looking, it definitely is looking a lot like a ferret or a weasel type of creature. And that's what they're all similar family, right? And when you've got that, we can start connecting all the other parts of his body. So I'm going to just do kind of a soft U shape right there. And then I'm going to look at where I think the rest of his body's going to go. And I'm just going to kind of edge in a little bit like that, kind of just point it down. Because as you see, the middle of his body is going to get bigger as you get into this round kind of leg part. And that's what you want to see happening because they do have that kind of weird poofy stomach, almost like if you see a cat and they've got that extra fur and skin there. That's actually to protect themselves and their vital organs when they get into fights. And that's why when cats like go over like that, they're trying to scratch. And yeah, anyway, otters have the same thing, and it's totally a great thing to kind of remember because then I remember that I have to draw it and put it in my image. And then I'm going to put just little things over here for that rock that I've got. If you can kind of see, it's starting to look more and more like what we want, right? So the last thing you probably guys are looking for is the tail. And because he's in a little bit of water, I'm just going to let the tail sink into that line, almost like a triangle if you need to make the shape, which is totally great. If you don't want it to just be a line, you can even just kind of add it and make his tail longer. That's up to you. The tails generally kind of come to this in a soft point, right? And then they get bigger as the body gets closer to meeting the tail. I was the did you know kid in my family. You can ask my parents. They kind of hated me a little bit, and I loved nature. Robert Bateman was my idol, and I still haven't met the guy, and I want to. So if anybody knows him, but yeah. So I do love nature, and I think it's really important to study a lot of things you're drawing sometimes because it helps add to your artwork, and it kind of gives you a bit more knowledge on why it looks that way or how an animal moves that way. Birds, for example, are a huge undertaking when you're looking at, things like their feathers. If you guys were in my last video, there's so many names for things and mechanisms to animals. And still, people are harder to draw, for me anyway. All right, so now we've got this. Otters tend to have hands, basically. They look like hands. So I'm going to just add some little backwards L shapes to my certain areas here, and I'm going to connect those later like that. I'll collect them now, I guess. And it's almost like they have little fingers, and it's kind of why I love them. Because they've just got these little hands that they want to grab things with. And if you know anything about otters, you know they hold hands because they don't want to drift apart in the water and all that sort of thing. And they're wonderful. So I'm going to just do that, and I'm going to leave it like that because this is going to be just a general drawing. Next, I'm going to take all the things that I've been doodling in here, and I'm going to just start erasing some of those inside lines, right? So then you can kind of see where you need to figure out what's going to stay and what's not. So I noticed he's got his hand kind of tilted, so I'm going to move his arm a little bit over and just bring it up like that, because he kind of looks a little bit like he's leaning back and looking up, right? And you want to always look at the angle of where your otter's looking, the angle and curve of the body, and the curve of their tail. Because a lot of times what you're going to see, especially with movement, is things like otters tend to have a very flowy sort of vibe to them. And that's actually a great way too to start drawing otters. If we have some time at the end, I'll show you. But yeah, so let's just erase some of these lines we're not going to need. You're going to need a lot of this back one, but I'm just going to adjust it a bit, and I'm going to take out a little bit of the line where the foot is, because their feet are kind of the same way. They've got little webbed toes. These aren't quite right, but I'm going to just let it be and make it look like they're all bunched up. So how's everybody doing so far? Can everybody hear me all right? Are they following okay? Anyways, while we're going through this, I'm just going to start getting rid of that line, and then we're going to get into the facial features. Because right now he kind of looks a little chubby to me, and I'm okay with it. I like him. And you notice how much I'm erasing. It's okay to erase. I know there was a few people that were talking to me earlier saying that they felt bad that they used so much of their eraser, but what do you know, you're learning, right? So it's going to be a lot of give and take and a lot of erasing and getting to where you need to be. Oh, I'm so glad. Awesome. So yeah, you just want to make sure that you're giving yourself a little bit of a break when you're drawing. It's not wrong to use your eraser. All right, so their noses tend to be a little line like that, and then probably one down here. They're quite large. Otters have big noses. And I'm going to make it kind of look like that. And all I'm going to do for this doodle is I'm going to just shade it in really slightly. And then what we're going to see also is that their nose kind of on their head, it's a little more angular than you would think. So I'm going to just work that into the top of his head. If you can see that. Yeah, so we're getting there. The next thing I would look at, because we just drew the circle for the head, right? It is an otter, James. I'm so glad you can tell what my drawing is. All right, so when you see the bottom here, this spot, we're going to just put that in a little bit, kind of like that. So if you look at otters, they tend to have little fluffy cheeks, and the bottom of their mouth is a little in more. So we're going to use the circle we've made to kind of mush it. Almost if you think of clay, you can kind of do that with your lines, right? I don't like it that mushed, so we're going to move it a little bit. But as you can see, it adds shape to your face. And otters' faces from the side are very thin ovals. From the front, your otter's face is going to be more of a wide oval. But we can get back to that. after. So I notice in my other drawing, I have a line over his eye. And I'm gonna, oh, he looks kind of grumpy there. I'm gonna just move that down a little bit. They do have very nice brown, round, pretty eyes, but there's a little bit of a line there, I think, and they always kind of seem to look a little unimpressed, and kind of want to just make sure that's in there. If you look at the ear too, it'll point down towards the eye. Not quite that extreme, but you just want to make sure that's kind of working for you. You can even do it where the ear is kind of more flattened, because if they are wet, they're gonna, flatten towards the body. And so all the little ears poking out, that you kind of just notice it sometimes. So I'm right there. I kind of like how he's looking. I ruined that line, so I'm gonna fix it. If you notice, a lot of times, especially because this is a live video, I will be erasing and redrawing and erasing and redrawing, and that's totally okay. Everybody does it, and I've seen people draw where they don't erase, and I'm amazed by it, but that's just not me. So I'm going to go into here, kind of work those extra lines out, kind of fix a few things. I know his chest is kind of a little more puffed, so I'm going to fix that a little bit. This is a good time for you guys, if you see something you don't quite like and you want to fix it, it's a good time to kind of work with that. And later, which is the best part, is if you like it and you want to, kind of play with it and work with your otter a little more, you can color it and figure out where those shading lines go, and it brings it to life a little bit more. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just start drawing some little lines on my lower edges in places where I think the shading's going to go. Because what that's going to do is kind of fill out some more information that I might not have put in there quite yet. You'll notice too, when you're drawing otters, they have huge whiskers that kind of point away. That was terrible. And they will kind of give it a little more of a face. When you're looking at them from the side, you're going to see lots poking this way, and then you're going to see some poking out. So I'm just going to leave them like that because I kind of like how that looks. It's almost like they have big beards. Still good, everybody? I'm hoping it's more helpful that I have like the continuous drawing and then being able to talk to you from here. All right. So far, I think it looks pretty good. I think it's a good kind of work into it. And this is a beginner class. They all are beginner classes, so please don't think that anything has to be perfect. My drawings are definitely not perfect. Yeah, and so I'm going to kind of just, like I said, go around and add shading to all the spots that I think are going to be missing that sun. I mean, his paws will have some shading. I'm going to kind of bring out those fingers a little bit more. Right? If you're feeling, a little sassy, you can start working some water in there. And slowly things start to happen and you kind of see what's going on, right? Thanks, Gina. You're awesome. How are you guys? I hope I see some of your guys' drawing after this. I really would like to see how well it goes. And we're only about 18 minutes in, so we have lots of time to kind of figure out otters, little more drawing of different, movements and how they sit, how they, go through their day. Right, the whiskers are the best. It's the best part. I don't know why, but it's like the cherry on top of the cake. Foxes, otters, cats, dogs, the whiskers are the thing that makes it perfect. So, I'm I'm going to darken that nose a little more, make sure it's noticeable. And that's the first guy. That's pretty simple, right? It just takes a little bit of time to figure out how to work what you've got with those shapes, right? I stand by it. You can draw anything as long as you break it down into shapes. So I'm going to leave that on there for a few seconds, just so people can kind of work up to that point, and then I'll move on to some other things. Whiskers are like when I draw needles on a pine tree. Yeah, that's right. So it's the same thing. When you're drawing needles on a pine tree, I'll move this way so people can still see that. So if I were to draw a pine tree, for everybody else that's not really sure what we're talking about, it's like these little flicking motions. And as you go down the tree, you can start visualizing where all those little pine needles are going to go. And because nature's not perfect, drawing trees are one of my favorite things ever. All you have to remember is they go out and flick up or flick down, depending on which way you're going. So if you see this one, I'm kind of doing it in a bowed motion. So you're kind of getting a tree tutorial here at the moment too. But you'll notice all that flicking ends up turning it into something really cool. And so whiskers and pine needles on trees, things like that, it definitely reminds me of the same thing. So I'm just going to move that on there. If you're feeling excited about the trees, definitely draw some in the background. It gives it a little bit of a extra factor there. But yeah, so I scribble trees in like that. I could take more time on them, but I do have a very big interest in animals, and so I kind of tend to leave my landscape bits unfinished, and I have to fix that. But yeah, I'll leave that there for a few, and then we'll move on to another otter. As you can see, I've been drawing many. And if you guys are also wanting to watch this again, they stay up on my page, so you're more than welcome to go back and watch again and try again. The foxes one is on there. I accidentally deleted the birds one, so maybe I'll go back to drawing crows or something for some people, and get that back up there. And then next month will be whales, so kind of excited about that one. Thanks, Candace. I'm so excited to see all your guys' drawings because I get a great onslaught of pictures coming my way after these classes, and they're just great. Like, you guys are doing really good, and it makes me really proud because I showed you. All right. Is everybody good to go? Do you think we should move on, or am I not giving you enough time? I'm gonna go with silence as we can move on. So if I were to turn my page over and work with something else, I'm going to show you what I was meaning about how they kind of have a fluid motion. So if I were to draw a circle again for his head, right, or an oval really for his head, and I were to take the line from the top and then make it in kind of a wave shape, you can work with that. You could even work with, if you've got kind of a more fun kind of wave, a little more, like, I mean, it looks strange, but that's when you start putting in the body, and you can even work in the tail just like that. And it's kind of easy to see where you're going with it. So for me, what I would do is I'd probably put the ear there. I would probably get the eye close again to the top of his head. And then I'm going to put that nose in first. If you ever notice when you're looking at other animals, their noses are fairly close to where their eye level is, which is different from people, right? Their eye level for people is way down from where their mouths are. And if you look at your dog, his mouth's below, but if you look from the side, they curve up to the eye, and it always seems to meet up at a point. Not like very sharp or anything, just very, there's just always a pattern. With people, because you're looking from the side, it's funny because the corner of the eye actually goes into the side of the ear instead of pointing up. So if you're looking at otters, because they've got those chubby cheeks and all that, right? Here, you'd notice like they would be like this more so, and they'd be curving up towards the eye. With birds, there's also the same thing where their eye is closer to where their mouth line is. So that's one thing that a lot of animals have. And it's just another way of looking at it, right? So with this guy, I'm going to just kind of have a little fun playing around with what his body's going to be doing here. So I'm going to remember that they've got a larger backside, and I'm going to add that in there. I'm going to create a circle here for where his back legs are going to be. And I'm going to kind of use this opportunity to show there's a smaller circle in the front for the arms. So if I were to kind of just use that and then have his little paws go back, not quite like that, maybe like that. You just want to make sure that you're doing it without making it look a little strange. So I'm going to just make sure. And he'll have little fingers again and all that. And the other part, his other paw can kind of reach forward, right? And I'm not going to do all the detail right now because obviously it's a lot. But yeah, so you can see he's starting to turn into something, and it's a little more fun, a little more playful than the last one. And these are the ones that I like to keep kind of cartoony because they're whimsical, right? Otters are whimsical creatures, and people love them because they're cute and fluffy and they're playful. Granted, there have been some weird stories about the channel and otters attacking a dog, and I don't know about that. But some can be mean, I guess. I always thought they were whimsical and happy and fun, but nature. So I'm going to use this part to make his foot kind of work in there. And I can work with that later to kind of put his little toes in there and all that, but I'm just going to leave it for now. And then this is the bottom part of his tummy, so I can go ahead and just add that. So you guys are seeing that this guy's turning into something a little more than just a line and a circle. So I'm going to go ahead, and I said before they have kind of like a soft end to their tail because they're not pointy, they're not like pencils. So I'm going to just put it like that, and then I'm going to erase a bunch of these lines just so I can kind of get an idea of where I'm going. So if you get anywhere around that sort of way, I'm going to keep his elbow. The rest there is going to stay, and I'm going to kind of taper his body off a little bit more just to give him more of a shape, right? Because again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's for fun and it's for enjoyment, and I'm going to work with that. And I'm going to go ahead and thin out that bottom jaw like we were talking before. It has that little indent, right? And you can see it's slowly turning into something a little more fun and a little more awesome. I'm going to leave that one like there, or like there, like that for a minute, because I know I kind of rushed through that one, but yeah, so this guy is turning into something a little more awesome. I like this one better, is what I'm saying. Yeah, and while you guys are doing that, I'm just gonna kind of give them some toes. They've got a weird little thumb toe that's kind of up here, and it's just interesting, so I'm just going to leave that. And I'm going to just fix a few things. What's happening? Why is it not charging? Give me 1 second. I don't know why. Charger cable's not working. That's strange. Huh. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm going to go and try and plug in my iPad. It's very strange. Prairie dog. Prairie dogs are cool, though. I mean, I would love to see one doing yoga. That would be really fun. I like the idea of that picture is what I'm saying, and it makes me really happy to think about it. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to move some things around while I try and figure this issue out here. Let's try that. Haha. Shay 1, Technology 0. Alright. Why is it upside down? Alright, how's everybody doing so far? They get the kind of gist of how that's working? Not sure why it looks like it's upside down. I've done something. Ah, we're okay. It's fine. Alright, so like I said, we've got this cute little picture, this cute little guy. You can even kind of make him look like he's, I don't know, I'm going to make it look like he's messing around with one of those goldfish. You know the type, the crackers. So I'm going to just do that. If you want to draw the goldfish, you just kind of need to be able to draw a bean shape for the tail and kind of like a triangular oval for the front of the body. So. But yeah, so it's one of the easiest way to kind of figure out otters is to kind of give them, my favorite way is to just kind of draw a random line because they're so windy and fun and they do that all the time that it's just an easy way to start. And now, because I don't have it yet, I'm going to start with some little whiskers. And they're really long, you guys, so don't worry too much about making them shorter. They could be curved more on my end, but that's all right. And then I'm going to create that upside down sort of teardrop shape for his nose. And I'm going to fill that in a little darker and just lightly fill in the nose a little more. It gives you a little bit of an idea of what you're doing. I'm going to do that with his eye too. Maybe leave a little bit of that light in there. So either you can draw a circle and then color around it, or you can just kind of shade it as you go. The other thing I'm looking at, which I don't quite like, is the ear seems a little off. So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to just bring it up a bit, right? And this is what's so great about drawing and sketching. You can move things around and fix it, because the ears are always intended to be closer to the top of the head. So I'm just going to keep it like that. They're like little triangles, those ears, or C shapes, whichever you prefer. Right. So I'm going to leave it like that. Take away that a bit. Yeah. And I'm hoping you guys are enjoying these, because I'm really enjoying drawing them like this. And then if something's ever farther away in an image, like if I'm here and you're seeing the back end of my arms or something, you notice it's lighter up here and darker back here. Not by a lot, but when you're drawing, you can afford to make that contrast a lot of the time. So I'm going to take his back foot and just kind of shade it in. Because if you can see, what that's done is that's given it that depth to look like it's further back and not just 2D in the image. And I'm going to do that maybe with the under parts of his leg here, just because we just talked about doing the parts where sun isn't touching. And so I'm going to do that all down his tail a little bit. The best thing I ever did, and maybe I'll do a class with that, is I had brown papered sketchbooks, and we used white ink, which is really cool. I do want to get into some beginning painting classes if anyone's interested, but if you are, I can send out a list on my Facebook of the things you'd need. Dollarama and things like that have paints that will work for people that are beginners, and you can also get a lot of really cheap canvas and things there for practice. So it's always an option to kind of work that way. I'm going to kind of get rid of that weird little hump there because I'm not really liking it. And then I'm going to just kind of, like I did with the other one, fix a couple things I wasn't really happy with. Kind of play around with the shading a bit. And I'm going to just kind of put a little bit of a foot here. It seems odd that you'd see his back foot and not his other foot. I'm just going to put in the little toes. And as you can see, we've got ourselves another otter. Sounded very newsy, didn't it? No weather this week. And then, yeah. If you're feeling like your lines are too light and you feel comfortable with how your drawing went, you can go ahead and start actually darkening lines and adding things. Like I like to sometimes add little bubbles. Because this is more of a cartoony kind of creature, I'm really happy kind of doing these weird little things. Ooh, we made it to 15 viewers. That's fabulous. Is it still looking like a prairie dog? Ooh, we're at 16 now. Thanks. Just so you guys know, it makes me extremely happy to watch new viewers on my page every time I look in there. So, if I get all excited, that's why. So we're at 16, and that's awesome. Oh, great choice. Yeah, seaweed's always kind of a great one to add to that, especially since there's different types of otters. You know, like we've got ones in the Okanagan here. There's, sea otters. There's lots of different things you can do with the kind of background that you want to do. Head size to body size. So if you're looking at the kind of oval that I did, I'm going to move this around. So if anybody needs to look at that, I'll go back to it. But if you're looking at your otter size, I would draw the head size first. And your tail size, or your body size, excuse me, is going to be if you look at that, I'm going to move this where my fingers touch here. I'm going to move it over. It's going to be just a bit shorter than 2 sizes of the head, which, I mean, that's kind of relative. You could make it a little longer because they are quite lanky body, through my pencil, body wise. And so if that's what you're planning to do, you can literally make the body size 2 heads long with the same sort of movement. The only thing that I would look at when you're looking at this head size is going to change and thin out, whereas the body size is going to start small and then you're going to grow that as you get to the leg. Does that make sense? The other way you can do it too is drawing the head and then, or sorry, the body and then the head. And then when you're getting into the tail is pretty similar in length. It just tapers off into that soft point as we were talking about. I threw my pencil. But yeah, hopefully, Donna, that helps you out a little bit. So like I said, if you're seeing this, he's even longer. So if I take the head here, that's the circle I've probably drawn, and I kind of pay attention to where my finger is, you're going to see that it's fairly close, even though it looks like it's a lot longer, right? And like I said, if it's kind of more cartoony and you're not interested in doing extreme realism, which is very, very hard to do, the body length, as long as it's within a certain, modicum of normal, it will still look okay. Like this otter's all bent around and things, so it's just kind of why I think when you're looking at pictures you want to draw or you're researching an animal, it's a really good option to look and notice those things about your subject, right? So like you see this guy, his head's here, 1 and then 2, except for it's just a tad bit bigger because he's bunched his legs up and it pushes out that volume. There's actually a really good tutorial. I don't remember where it is. Maybe I'll try and find it or I'll remake one, but it's called Thinking in 3D, and it's all about picturing the things that you're trying to work with and create, and literally graphing out the size of them and how they work. And you'll come to a point where you actually will not need to worry too much about it because you'll have an eye for that, right? So your proportions and things will change. If you have a pencil, you might knew. I like it. I'm pretty sure that's kind of my life too. There's a modicum of normal. So if you have your pencil, I'm gonna just use this because I threw mine. And you look at the tip of your pencil to the edge of whatever your instrument is. You can actually go into this and say, okay, well, it's that long, and then you can do that instead of if you're using your finger or not. So this can actually be a really good tool on kind of measuring if you don't want to draw it all out. And that's a really good thing. Like if I was drawing, again, this guy, which I got from a photo, I would be going, okay, well, that's the length of his head to the back of his, or the front of his head to the back of his head. And so you can go to the image you're using and do the same kind of measurement with the picture, and you'll get a lot closer to what you're looking for. So if you do have images that you're using to practice, it helps a lot. So that's one of the other things you can do, which will give you a lot more of an idea of the modicum of normal of your drawings. Let me see if I can grab that pencil. Yep. I have a pen in here too. What is wrong with me today? But yeah, these are kind of the best things to draw because they are the easiest to sort of play around with, and even things like little chubby birds like we did in the beginning, it's really fun to kind of play with them and work with their with their sizing and their proportions, because that's how a lot of your favorite characters and images were made when, you know, you didn't you wanted to create those fun individual characters. Like if you're talking about, you know, Disney even, and I don't know why I'm thinking about this character, but that chicken from Moana, like it's got the general, like, you know, it's a chicken because you've got the general idea of what that body shape is, but then they made the eyes really big and bulgy. So this is where you can kind of have a lot of fun with that, and you can kind of play around with your own characters and the things you've created, which is kind of my favorite sort of thing. Give me 1 second. And I think this is the first one we've done where we've started and it's not had an issue. So, you know, big thank you to Jamie for helping me out today. He got this split screen thing working, and I had no idea what was going on. So thanks to him. And Donna, I'm gonna say that word around you a lot if I see you. I'm just gonna sneak it into conversation. Modicum of normal. All right, so that's pretty much everything you need to worry about with those guys. What you can do is go back and practice these two that we've done. You can try and do the thing where you know, draw a line, right, and then kind of just work with the shape of the body with the line. But your shape's going to change, right? So if your line's curvier like this, it's more like a bean shape, right? And then you're still going to use the edge of that to bring it into the tail. And like we were talking, the tail is pretty close to the same length of the body, right? And then you're going to bring in the head wherever you think it would be a good spot. And if you notice, we're not connecting the head to the other part of the body. You're welcome. Thanks for drawing with me. Yeah, so you see how it's kind of working that way. If you see this too, and your body's kind of getting curved in more, then you know that those hands and things are going to tuck in, right? And this part of his body where his legs are, maybe he's, you know, flipping around. And so you can kind of have a little bit of fun messing around with how his legs are coming out at the top, right? So now instead of him being just from the side, you've kind of got this really cool ability to make him look like he's upside down a little bit, right? So then you don't have to worry too much about his eyes, but maybe just a little spot where his ears are, where his mouth comes out. You know, there's so many things you can do. And with this guy, like I said, I did it really quickly, and I'm going to just erase some spots so you can see those shapes a little better. If you're going to do that, you just start making those same similar shapes. And this is where looking at things like the photos that we're talking about, you can figure out the shapes of those feet and those legs, and you can attribute that to, you know, this sort of whimsical kind of flipping motion, because they tend to be able to swim really fast in the water. And I don't know if any of you have seen them swim, but it's amazing. But yeah, and then, you know, maybe his whiskers come out a little bit, and you can see kind of like his little double chin, and, you know. And if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Thanks, Candace. Thank you, guys. But yeah, I'm going to be here right up until 5, which is still 12 minutes. So if you're interested in asking some questions about it or following along with this drawing, thanks. Then keep watching. Ask any questions. It doesn't have to be about otters. We can always ask about drawing techniques, or if you're interested in knowing what the other classes are coming up, things like that, more than happy to. I am opening up my patio to one-on-one sketch lessons, so that is Saturdays and Sundays and evenings after 5:30, depending on when you have time and when I can help you out. But yeah, so there's an option there too if you're looking for more in-depth classes or lessons. And I will be posting a pricing guide for those classes. I will be continuing though with these monthly classes for free also, just because I know people enjoy it and some people, prefer it in the privacy of their own homes, and also people that are not feeling like they're ready to kind of join a full class or a full session, then that's totally okay. I'm just happy that you guys are enjoying them. Like I said, these guys have little toes, so I'm kind of gonna just add little wiggles. I don't always have to make everything, look exactly like it's perfect, but I kind of enjoy adding those little bits of cute and fun. If you're looking for like little motion movement, you can even just add little lines in places, and it kind of little tiny way of showing it's kind of moving. If you're looking at cartoony stuff. But yeah, these kind of movements for otters are my favorite, just because this is the part that comes out that shows how playful and fun they are, right? You're welcome. Thanks again for coming to my class. If you have any comments or questions about the classes, I always love to hear from you guys. If you have, suggestions on if I can better this for everybody, please let me know, because I do want to make sure this is something that people keep wanting to come to. And my other camera just quit, which is cool. But yeah, so let's just kind of keep going with this. I'm gonna add some more bubbles. Yeah, and we'll just work with this camera for now, because I think we're good. Also, the other thing, you guys, if you're frustrated at all, just let me know, because I'm happy to give you some pointers or some ideas on how to kind of relieve that, or get the proper shapes that you're looking for, or anything like that. I'm happy to help. And if anyone's okay with it, I would be so happy if people would let me know if I can post some of their drawings after the class, because I'd like to see that. Or if you want to post them yourself under the comments section, totally excited about that too. That would be great. So you're seeing his toes right here. If you look really closely, they're just funny little toes. If you haven't seen them, please Google otters and look at their feet. They're funny little feet, and they've got little webs on them and nails, and they're interesting. Where are we for time? Okay, yeah, I'll stay on here and kind of doodle a bit for a few more minutes if anybody has any questions. If anybody has any requests on how to draw a certain movement or shape, or heck, even if you had a question from a class before, this is a good time to kind of ask. These classes are free, so I mean, this is a good time to take advantage of that. I want to see it though. I think the world wants to see this stickman otter of yours. I think it would be lovely. I mean, from the face, otters are pretty cute too. Get a little bean shape in there. If you're looking at the other type of otters, those really kind of fluffy ones with the really big noses, right? And their heads are kind of bulbous and round. And their little ears kind of poke out like that. Right, so, I mean, there's so many options you can have. Right, so, oh, I'm so glad. I like, it's kind of one of my favorites too. I absolutely adore otters. And just the way their faces move, and again, I think it's also a better experience now that, I've been so lucky to have the help that I do getting this video kind of working the way it is. Um, and I mean, I like having it kind of like there's a bit of a conversation between everybody and myself, which is great to see everybody commenting and, you know, adding their 2 cents to it and showing their work. I don't think it would be bad. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna look right now. I'm doing it. That's amazing. I'm sorry, but it's amazing. Oh no. You should keep doing the classes. I think you're doing good. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. I'm not a liar. I actually think it's kind of awesome. And I know for a fact that you don't draw very often, which I mean, when you don't have a lot of experience, you got to know that the stuff you're coming out with is still, it's still going to be a progress, right? No matter what you do or how far you get along, like with me, there's always going to be something new to learn. They say a lot of time that it takes 10,000 hours to learn something, but if I did that an hour a day for 17 years, that would be the progress that I would have to make, right? um so when you're looking at something and you don't have the confidence to think that it's any good, you got to remember you're not working with just all the knowledge of the rest of the world that's gone through all of that. You're working with things you're learning. Like I wouldn't have no idea how to do your job, nor do I think I have the physical capability to do your job. um and I just so happen to be super lucky that my mom's an artist. I've always been an artist, since I was a kid, right? So I've had 22 some years of experience drawing and watching my mom, who's got a master's degree, right? Like, there's just, yeah, it's all about that. But we've got about 2 minutes left. So, like I said, if anybody wants to message me or ask about our upcoming classes, or about, classes for um, for paid classes, I'm always happy to give you a shout. And yeah, thank you so much, you guys. This was a really awesome experience, and I think this was one of my favorite ones to do. My mom is amazing. I have 2 of her paintings. She's so good. I was so lucky. I stole one of her paintings and still haven't given it back to her, and it's a $1,500 painting, so I probably should. Perfect. I will definitely message you back when I'm off of live. I am now tasking you with the job of drawing a T-Rex otter. You have to do it now. It's the way. All right, you guys. So I'm going to end the feed, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And I can't wait till our next month's class. So bye.